Marcus was cheating. We had been together for 7 years and married for 4. In the end, he couldn't resist the novelty and pure admiration from a younger woman. The day I found out he was cheating, I sat by the window until sunrise, and decided to get my revenge. She broke my marriage, so I would ruin her studies and future. He betrayed my emotions, so I would strip him of his money and happiness. No one would get off easy. When came downstairs, I had just checked Chloe's latest social media post using my burner account. The young woman wore a white shirt and denim skirt, her face full of youthful vibrancy. The caption read, "Date time, go." I looked up at him. He wore the same white shirt and jeans. Even though he was over 30, he still looked like a college guy. Clearly, they had coordinated their outfits. Marcus approached me, gently ran his hand through my hair, and smiled, saying, "I'm heading out." I couldn't deny Marcus's looks. It was his handsome appearance that had first captivated me. Especially when he smiled, he looked so handsome and gentle. Unfortunately, at that moment, it only struck me as ironic. I smiled in response, watching him leave. I supposed this was the last time we would be gentle with each other. After today, he would likely be furious. Perhaps a storm would break tonight. I had spent the last 6 months planning this, also no one would have an easy time of it. As I laughed, tears inexplicably streamed down my cheeks. After all, it was an 11-year relationship. I had given my all. But 6 months ago, he ultimately betrayed me. The day I realized Marcus was cheating was an ordinary day. We had dinner as usual. We usually shared details about our day at that time. After all, we were both very busy, so we cherished these moments together even more. But that day, he was often distracted. Every now and then, he would reply to phone messages, a smile on his face that he tried to hide. When he replied to a message for the 3rd time, I frowned, put down my utensils, and looked at him. "What are you looking at? Is it that urgent?" He realized I was unhappy, put away his phone, and coaxed me with a smile. "The project team is still working late, there are some urgent issues. Alright, let's just enjoy our meal, don't be mad." As he spoke, he picked up my favorite piece of the fish and placed it in my bowl. "Your favorite piece of the fish?" I looked at him, and a strange sense of alarm rose in my heart. After all, I knew him too well. That night, we ate, chatted, and slept as usual. But he didn't know I hadn't slept at all. The pre-dawn night was eerily quiet. I quietly picked up his phone. We trusted each other. Though I knew his password, I had never checked his phone. But tonight, I did something I used to despise. I sat on the sofa in the study, going through his phone. There were no unfamiliar contacts in his chat interface, but the project group chat had no messages during dinner. I scrolled through his contacts. I was still at the top of his favorites. But as I scrolled, I noticed someone with a mini profile picture. I tapped on it, but there was no chat history, not even a greeting from when they first added each other. I opened her social media posts. As I scrolled, I prayed internally, praying there was nothing inappropriate going on between them. Her social media posts were full of content, documenting her vibrant life. There were also many selfies of the girl. The girl was confident and lively, smiling like a sunflower. Even I found her lovely. In a social media post from 2 months ago, I saw Marcus's distinct profile. The caption read, "Interviewed my idol, so happy. He's truly the amazing senior I've admired for a long time." The photo's background was Marcus's office. Perhaps this didn't mean anything. My hand trembled slightly as I held the phone, but I still clung to hope. I scrolled further back and saw a group photo of them. There were many people in the photo, the two of them some distance apart. The background seemed to be Northwood University's anniversary celebration. I remembered he told me his alma mater had invited him to speak at the anniversary, but I had to travel for a business trip and couldn't attend. I remembered how excited I was that day, reminiscing with him over the phone about our school days. There were no traces of any interaction between them further back. It seemed it was that anniversary celebration that brought them together. I looked back from that group photo. Some memories gradually became clearer. The day the girl posted about a trendy restaurant, Marcus told me the project team was working late. The day the girl posted about a revolving restaurant, Marcus told me he had a client meeting that evening. The day the girl posted a picture with a dolphin, Marcus still told me he was working late. Even the trendy bread he brought home for me to praise had been checked into with the girl. Although there was no information in the photos indicating Marcus's presence, I knew this wasn't an excuse for me to deceive myself. I took pictures of these photos and information. Silently, I put his phone back where it belonged. Sitting by the window, I realized my hands and feet were already icy cold. I hugged myself tightly, curled up in a corner of the bay window. Tears had silently soaked my cheeks, my mind was a mess, and all I felt was a bone-chilling cold. Marcus and I had been in love for 11 years, together for 7, and married for 4. I thought we would go on forever. We had promised each other we would never stray. But now, perhaps my definition was a bit premature. At this moment, I hated that I knew him too well. We met in our freshman year at Northwood University's cafeteria. That day, I went to get food at the cafeteria and instantly saw the handsome guy serving food to students at the serving line. Even with a mask on, his good looks couldn't be hidden. His beautiful eyebrows were furrowed, his eyes on the spoon he held, filling it with food. As I approached, I heard the auntie next to him lecturing him, "You need to shake your hand a bit, don't put so much meat, oh, that's enough, don't give so much." The student getting food rolled their eyes while thanking Marcus, "Thanks, handsome." This exchange made Marcus at the serving line even more flustered. Standing there, I found it amusing and walked to that same serving line. I watched him clumsily try to shake the spoon without success, listening to the auntie sighing beside him. That afternoon, we met again at the library. We approached from 2 different directions, reached for the same book, and then looked at each other in surprise. This time, he wasn't wearing a mask, and his features were sharp and distinct. All I could think was, he's really handsome. In that moment, it felt like time stood still. Just as I froze, he let me have the book, picked up another, and turned to leave. Without a word. Which made me a bit annoyed. After all, I was a bright and graceful beauty. So, I decided I would go to his serving line for dinner too, just to watch him struggle and feel a bit better. But in less than 2 hours, we met again. At a debate club meeting, where both of us were new freshman members, I learned his name was Marcus. After the meeting, I watched him hurry away. A thought struck me, and I quickly chased after him. "Marcus." He turned to look at me, backlit, and in that instant, it felt like he struck my heart. "Yes?" His voice was very magnetic. I walked beside him, smiling at him, my eyes full of sunshine. "Marcus, we've met 3 times today. Have you heard that meeting someone once by chance is fate, but meeting them 3 times means it's destiny?" After he heard me, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile, his eyes gentle, but what he said wasn't so kind. Never heard that one. "Anyway, Grace, I'm going to be late for my job. See you." Then he turned and hurried away again. Well, flirting if a fool, then. Still, that evening, I went to his serving line for food. He wasn't flustered like he was at noon, he smiled as he served me, even secretly giving me extra chicken drumstick meat. We instinctively drew closer to each other, getting to know one another. The day we made it official was also quite ordinary. After a club meeting, we tidied up some materials together, and then he walked me back to my dorm. At the dorm entrance, he pulled a gift from his backpack, a star bracelet. The smile in his eyes disappeared, replaced by nervousness. "Grace, will you be my girlfriend?" I had never seen him so nervous. His voice trembled, and he licked his lips after speaking. I smiled and nodded hard, very hard, yes. Then I took the bracelet and had him put it on me. He took a long time to put it on, his hands shaking. That night, we embraced for a long time. Back in my dorm, I rolled around on my bed, giddy with joy. After 3 months of flirting, it had finally come to fruition. We supported each other, promised to trust each other, sweetly navigated college life, overcame the hurdle of breaking up after graduation, triumphed over the hardships of entrepreneurship, promised a lifetime at our wedding, and became a couple everyone envied. Over the years, we witnessed each other's growth, both becoming excellent in our respective fields. And he, whom I had carefully nurtured into a gentle, considerate, mature, steady, and attractive man, was now to become someone else's prize. That night, I looked at the girl's selfies again and again. I had to admit, she was lovely, and being able to work at Northwood University's anniversary celebration and interview distinguished alumni meant she was likely an excellent person herself. I tried to self-hypnotize, thinking perhaps it wasn't as bad as I imagined. We had promised to be together forever, and to trust each other. Unfortunately, the hypnosis failed. I had always been very goal-oriented and good at making decisive AKS. Without realizing it, the sun had gradually risen, and my body began to feel warm. Not wanting Marcus to see me in such a state, I tidied myself up and left home early. When called, I was already at the office. His just-woken voice had a soft, husky quality. "Honey, where did you go?" "I had something today, came to the company early. I was in a hurry and didn't wake you." At that moment, I feigned a calm voice, not letting him sense anything unusual. Okay, remember to eat. Love you. Love you. We were used to saying I love you before hanging up, used to sharing everything with each other, used to waking up and seeing each other every morning. How had things gone so wrong? I propped my head in my hands, my fingertips unconsciously gripping my hair. I sighed loudly in pain, and after struggling to calm myself, I sent the girl's photos to someone I knew for an investigation. Life went on as usual. Marcus never showed any more abnormal behavior after that night, but I felt no security at all. It wasn't until I saw the girl's information that the stone in my heart finally created ripples. The detective was very diligent, the girl's information was very detailed. Chloe, from a hometown in the neighboring city, her parents were teachers at a key high school. She had excellent grades since childhood and was a junior in computer at Northwood University, a direct junior to Marcus. My suspicions were confirmed. The information included photos of Marcus and the girl together at a trendy restaurant, a revolving restaurant, and a coffee shop downstairs from Marcus's company. Although the two in the photos didn't show intimate gestures, they inexplicably looked very harmonious. I suddenly wanted to meet this girl. It just so happened that a few days prior, I had received an invitation from my professor to return and give a presentation and interview. On the day of the presentation, Professor and Dean accompanied me. I shared some case studies with the students, and the effect was excellent. Afterwards, Professor specifically arranged for a campus newspaper interview. At the time, I casually mentioned, Marcus said the young reporter who interviewed him last time was quite good. So, Professor specifically arranged for Chloe to come. She attended my entire presentation. When she heard the teachers mention Marcus and my sweet relationship, her face clearly showed discomfort. I smiled and greeted her, then deliberately added, I read your last interview with my husband, it was very well written. I look forward to this interview being even better. The girl's hand clearly tightened on her handbag, and the sparkle in her eyes, seen in her photos, was gone. After the interview ended somewhat uneventfully, I had a meal with the teachers and a few students, Chloe included. I didn't know why she didn't choose to avoid it. At the dining table, guided by me, Professor repeatedly brought up Marcus and my achievements in school, mentioning how we led the university debate club to win the collegiate debate championship, and how Marcus often attended classes with me. I watched Chloe's face grow paler and paler, and suddenly felt that bullying a young girl like this was utterly pointless. That evening, when I returned home, Marcus was sitting on the sofa holding his phone. Seeing me, he came forward and said, How was your visit to your alma mater today? Why didn't you tell me there was a campus newspaper interview? It seemed the young girl had complained. I pretended to know nothing, glanced at him, and said, the presentation feedback from Professor was good. The interview was arranged by Professor. Huh? How did you know I had a campus newspaper interview? His smile froze for a moment, then he replied nonchalantly, the young reporter who interviewed you is the same one who interviewed me. She added me on WhatsApp after interviewing me before. After interviewing you, she specifically told me that we looked incredibly well matched. She's cute. You're perceptive. I smiled, watching him make things up, then probed, the young girl didn't add me on WhatsApp. It seems that in her eyes, Senior holds a different status, doesn't he? Hearing my words, his arms around me stiffened noticeably. A moment later, he tightened his embrace, holding me close and swaying gently. Are you jealous, honey? I'm so happy you're jealous. But she probably added me because I'm a direct senior. You have to trust me. As he spoke, he rubbed his head against my neck and shoulder, his intention clear. But deep down, I wanted to tear everything open and confront him about why he betrayed me. However, my rationality wouldn't allow it. At that moment, besides those few ambiguous photos, I had no concrete evidence. We had been so sweet for 11 years, he had been so good to me, so good that my parents loved him even more than me, my friends trusted him. No one around me thought he was a bad person or capable of cheating. If I caused a scene now, I would be the one losing out. The anger within me was like a wild horse, wanting to break free uncontrollably, but it couldn't find an outlet. I wanted to rip the smile off his face, but in the end, I only said I was tired and escaped to the restroom. That night, I suddenly woke up in the early hours again, looking at the sleeping man beside me, and I desperately wanted to stab him. I quietly picked up his phone, tapped on Chloe's profile picture again. It was still a blank chat window. He was either overly cautious, or he trusted me too much to check his phone. Her latest social media post was from that evening, with a happy selfie and the caption, comforted, feeling happy. The previous post was after interviewing me in the afternoon, with just a simple line, "So sad." I figured Marcus was the one who comforted the young girl. Was it a voice message or text? What did he say? My head ached, my heart hurt so much that the hand holding my phone was trembling. Once again, I sat there, unmoving, until the sun rose, and he was none the wiser. The next day, I received the young girl's interview draft via email. It was indeed good, and I replied okay. Neither of us mentioned adding WhatsApp yesterday, and the young girl actually had the patience to hold back. However, the detective had given me a burner account with a smiling emoji that had already added Chloe. Every day, I went through Chloe's social media posts like a stalker. I hated my own actions. Gradually, I grew numb, indifferent, and uncaring. The day before, her social media post updated, "Looking forward to the amusement park tomorrow." The next day, I followed them like a maniac. Marcus had changed out of the suit he wore that morning, putting on a hoodie that matched the girl's, and I watched them stroll hand in hand a few meters away. The young girl was very good at acting cute. She would sway Marcus's arm while looking at him sweetly, saying things I couldn't hear. It was probably her trying to get him to ride the roller coaster with her. I thought Marcus would probably refuse. 8 years ago, when he came to the amusement park with me, I forced him onto a roller coaster, and he threw up afterward, swearing he'd never ride one again. But I was wrong. He smiled, ran his hand through the young girl's hair, and got on with her. As I watched the roller coaster speed by, listening to the screams, I repeatedly told myself that I had to get revenge on them. Even though Marcus's face was pale and his lips bloodless after the roller coaster, he gently comforted the young girl who was blaming herself. Following them, watching them wear Mickey and Minnie headbands together, watching Marcus gently wipe ice cream from Chloe's mouth, watching them walk hand in hand, finally, at some point, or perhaps after enough accumulation, I stopped in my tracks. I couldn't follow them anymore. I stood there, letting tourists watch me, walk past, or bump into me, until a 4 or 5-year-old girl handed me a tissue. "Oh, Ty, don't cry." I looked down at her, my vision already blurred, only then realizing that tears had already smeared across my face. I took the tissue and thanked her with a smile that must have looked worse than crying. The little girl gave me a serious critique. "Auntie, you're so pretty, it's not nice to cry." Yes, I was so beautiful, and Marcus truly had no conscience, and his eyes were blind. I didn't want to delve into why he cheated or broke his promises. I just wanted to detach myself. Life was long, it was only 11 years, and I was only 30. My life's not even halfway over yet. I turned and walked away. I didn't want him anymore, but a price always had to be paid. After returning home, I gradually calmed down. From the night I realized something was off until now, half a month had passed, along with the desensitization therapy of constantly forcing myself to watch their interactions. Enough disappointment had accumulated to offset all the past sweetness and happiness. I organized all the personal property and real estate in the house. Since I majored in finance, I managed all the family's investments. I planned to use 6 months to make this household legally encumbered with debt. The difficult part was Marcus's company. He started it during graduate school, and after 7 years, it was now at a critical juncture, having gone through several rounds of funding and on the verge of going public. Yes, at such a crucial time, he recklessly had an outside relationship. This showed the girl's place in his heart. I didn't know if he had thought through the consequences and firmly chosen Chloe, or if he believed I would tolerate Chloe's existence for his sake and wouldn't divorce or make a scene. As night deepened, he finally came home. He had changed out of the amusement park clothes and put on the suit he wore that morning. How could he switch so seamlessly? He saw me sitting on the sofa, walked over, and hugged me. It was strange, he had no other SCE and T on him, yet I still felt nauseated. He pulled me into his embrace, speaking tiredly about the hardships of working late. In the corner he couldn't see, my eyes were filled with hatred. How could he treat me like a fool and sweet-talk me? To avoid arousing his suspicion, I tried to share what I had done today as usual, casually mentioning investments introduced by a senior colleague. He just smiled, saying everything was up to me, and that he trusted me. I gradually transferred the cash flow and money from mortgaged properties under the guise of investments, and he didn't notice. The same day I saw photos of him and Chloe kissing on the street, I hired people to influence Chloe's circle. I instructed them to lure Chloe into high-end consumption, attending elite gatherings, experiencing the world of fame and fortune, to feed her desires and ambitions. I watched her become increasingly materialistic, watched Marcus pay for her expenses. I elevated her to a high pedestal, anticipating the day she would fall. The day I saw them entering and leaving a hotel, I ensured our household's assets were depleted, heading into debt. And when Marcus, to avoid touching company funds, was short on personal cash, I orchestrated a plan for Chloe to persuade Marcus to buy her real estate, draining Marcus of his personal money and forcing him to misappropriate company funds. Later, looking at photos of them entering and leaving their new home, I planned to kick Marcus out of the company during the final round of funding. I imagined how heartbreaking it would be for him to see the child he had poured 7 years of his heart and soul into being snatched away. I silently did all of this, without telling anyone. He and I still played the part of an affectionate couple, adhering to our promises of trust, sharing, and expressing love, our acting skills impressive. Now, everything was on the verge of exploding, and only I understood the bitterness of the past 6 months. Marcus, who had left home this morning in a white shirt and jeans, would likely receive the divorce proceedings and asset freeze order notice that morning. Chloe would also probably receive a notice of lawsuit to recover community property. It was a shame that, under my careful guidance, even with the added real estate, it amounted to only around $10 million. After left, I went upstairs and packed all his belongings. After enduring it for half a year, I could finally kick him out. When returned, all his belongings were piled outside the door. The door lock's code had been changed, and his fingerprints erased. He pressed the doorbell irritably. Through the security camera, I watched him clench his hands after pressing the doorbell, then helplessly drop them. His good mood from the morning had vanished, leaving only agitation. I quietly watched him pace back and forth, restless and anxious. When he saw I wouldn't open the door, he pulled out his phone. Immediately, my phone rang. It rang for a long time before I finally answered. "Gracie, open the door. Let's talk this through." His voice was filled with defeat and pleading. "I don't want to talk to you. Let the lawyers handle everything directly." The other end of the line went silent. Through the security camera, I saw him lean against the doorframe, defeated. Seeing the man I had loved for 11 years like this, my heart still ached. I had been with him from his youth to his 30s, from naive to mature. "I don't want a divorce." His voice was heavy. "I'll see you in court, Marcus." I hung up the phone and watched him through the security camera, staring blankly at his disconnected phone, just sitting there. A door separated us. I was on my bedroom bed, but it was another sleepless night. He sat by the door, just sitting there all night. That night, I wondered what he was thinking: regret, self-blame, or was he angry at me? I reluctantly opened the door. When he saw me, he struggled to stand up, his face full of pain. "Marcus, there's nothing for us to talk about. You and Chloe both received the notices, right? For her, I'll be recovering community property. For you, I'm filing for divorce. Everything will go through our lawyers." He stepped forward and grabbed my hand. "Gracie, let's talk." We stood there face to face for a long time, so close yet so distant. "Gracie, we've loved each other for 11 years. Please, can we talk?" He knew I was a soft touch. 11 years? So what about 11 years? You still betrayed me. What else do you have to say? You know I have zero tolerance for betrayal. I scoffed, but my words still held resentment. "Gracie." He still looked at me with pain in his eyes. The handsome face that had first captivated me was now dull, devoid of light. I stepped aside, motioning for him to come in. He sat on the sofa, head bowed, not daring to look at me. "Gracie, I love you. I never thought about divorce. Do you believe me?" I scoffed, remaining silent, letting him ramble. "I know you don't tolerate infidelity. You probably won't forgive me this time. When I received the notice yesterday, the first thing I thought was how terrible you must have felt when you found out. How long have you known? How long have you been hurting? Gracie, I love you. Even now, I still love you. Do you still believe me?" He looked up, eyes filled with expectation, and I found it utterly ironic. "You ask if I believe you? I can't. You'd better not desecrate the word love. He probably found it ironic himself, letting out a bitter laugh. "We've been in love for 11 years, and I always believed we'd go on forever, simply but happily." Chloe's appearance was like a lively fish jumping into a calm fish tank. She made ripples in my otherwise placid heart. She looked at me with pure admiration, calling me her idol, bringing me a kind of worship and excitement I hadn't experienced with you. So, I gradually became greedy. I told her I had a wife and would never divorce, but she was like a moth drawn to a flame, telling me she only needed me to see her whenever I had time. You know, over the years, I've turned down many people. They used to tease me, saying my wife wears the pants, and I just laughed it off. But tears after being rejected got to me. I found I couldn't reject her anymore. I won't deny that I like her. Am I so selfish that I can't let go of either of you? Chloe won't affect you, she'll be very obedient, Gracie. Can we not get a divorce? Listening to his utterly absurd words, I truly didn't know how to react for a moment. How could he possibly think I would accept such a disgusting idea? What did it matter if the young girl was obedient? I really wanted to crack open his head and see whether his brain had turned to mush over the years. It seems that even after a long time, you can't truly know a person, Marcus. I suddenly don't understand you. Perhaps I don't understand men at all. Don't make excuses for your cheating. I've always been faithful. If you want to talk, I'll let you speak, but not to listen to this nonsense. I coldly cut him off. Regarding the money you spent on Chloe, I've had it investigated. The house will be repossessed, and the other funds, totaling less than 3 million, will be fully recovered. Don't even think about paying it back yourself, you won't misappropriate company funds before the divorce. Our current assets are legally encumbered with debt, and the debt will be shared. The company shares under my name are mine, and I want 40% of the shares under your name. Debt? Our household has plenty of cash flow. How could we be in debt? When it came to property, he finally snapped out of his monologue. Investment losses. Everything is legal and verifiable. The lawyers will provide you with the details when they connect with you. He suddenly gave a sarcastic laugh. You've been planning this for a long time, haven't you? See how rational and self-centered you are. I saw the sarcasm in his eyes, heard his self-assessment in his words, and the anger inside me could no longer be contained. Yes, I'm self-centered, Marcus. For these 11 years, I was devoted to you, never betraying this home in the slightest. It was you who destroyed everything I carefully built. Do you know? I've seen your group photo at the university anniversary, the side profile she took of you. I've seen you dress younger to match her, seen photos of you kissing, going in and out of hotels, holding hands at the amusement park. I even followed you to the amusement park. Watching you with her, I stood just a few meters away, crying my eyes out. Do you understand? You're an animal. I never imagined we'd reach this point. Yes, I'm petty, Marcus, and I'm telling you, I won't let either of you off easy. Get out. Like a madwoman, I pulled the stunned Marcus up, pushed him out the door before he could react, then leaned weakly against the door, sobbing loudly, releasing my fury. I heard him whisper I'm sorry from behind the closed door. But what good was that? The lawyers proceeded with our plan, first addressing the lawsuit against Chloe. After I submitted documentation of Chloe's misconduct to Northwood University, I waited for her punishment. After all, neither Marcus nor I were nobodies. Various versions of our marriage breakdown spread throughout the finance and tech circles. His company's funding stalled, and Chloe, with her disgraced reputation, would never be able to thrive in this industry. Receiving my parents' call was the first time I felt fear since planning the divorce. After all, my parents loved him too much. They remembered Marcus's favorite foods, his little habits. Every time we went back to my hometown, the dining table would be full of dishes he loved, and they'd praise him to everyone, saying, "My son-in-law is filial, good to Gracie, devoted to his family." Given the current situation, I dreaded facing their disappointment. Mom. I picked up the phone, truly not knowing what to say. Gracie, have you had dinner? Yes, I have. You too? We've eaten too. Whatever happens, you need to take care of yourself. Do you need your dad and me to come over? My mother's voice lacked its usual cheerfulness. She didn't ask why I was divorcing, didn't try to reconcile us. Just that simple sentence made my eyes well up again. I'm sorry, Mom. I've disappointed you. I didn't manage my marriage well. You liked him so much, and now I've made you lose face in front of relatives and neighbors. Sweetheart, you did nothing wrong. He's the problem. If a person isn't good, we replace them, it's no big deal. We liked him because he was good to you. If you don't want him, he's nobody. What's face compared to you? Nothing is more important than my daughter. Gracie, Dad's here. Don't be afraid. Do what you want to do. My dad's firm words gave me peace of mind for the first time in 6 months. From childhood, I had always been the perfect child, never once disappointing them. This divorce, their disappointment, was what I feared most. My parents, worried I'd struggle alone, specifically rushed over to take care of me, which made me both laugh and cry, and felt incredibly heartwarming. Later, I heard that Marcus and his parents had contacted my parents more than once, trying to persuade me not to make a big deal of it, but my parents refused them all. They firmly supported and cared for me. The divorce proceedings progressed smoothly. Chloe returned the money as required by the judgment, on schedule. Northwood University also expelled Chloe after receiving the information and conducting an investigation. A highly talented student who should have had a bright future had her prospects cut short. The day after the judgment was handed down, Chloe asked to meet me. The young girl had never confronted me before, nor had she actively revealed her relationship with Marcus through any channel. I was curious what pushed her to this point. Meeting again, she had lost her previous vibrancy. Seeing me, her eyes were filled with anger and resentment. I looked at her and felt only pity. Are you satisfied? I've been expelled. I worked so hard to get into Northwood University, and you ruined it. You ruined it yourself. I said calmly. I'm telling you, I love him, and he loves me too. What does it matter if you got the school to expel me? Marcus said he'd find a way for me, he said he'd take care of me. What about your 11 years together? He said he was so happy with me. You know what? I was prepared to stay silently by his side, even if he didn't divorce you. But since you're divorcing him, I really have to thank you. I watched the angry girl in front of me, speechless. I used to think she was very smart, but now she seemed utterly foolish, blinded either by love or anger. Why would she come seeking my displeasure? So, you wanted to be a mistress? My words stumped her, and her face turned a deep red. It seemed she had nothing valuable left to say. We haven't finalized our divorce yet. As his legitimate wife, I could still help him take a mistress. Just you wait. I stood up and left, no longer listening to her crazy talk. Turning around, I immediately arranged for someone to go to her hometown and initiated a public shaming campaign. The next day, outside her home and at the entrance of the school where her parents taught, there was a banner that read, "The parents, esteemed educators, have a daughter whose talents include seducing married men with the intent of becoming a mistress. We are now publicly assisting the husband in acquiring a mistress." I heard that Mr. Taylor was greatly embarrassed at school. When he returned home, he was even more humiliated and angry, overwhelmed by anger, and went to the hospital. Chloe rushed home, facing her parents' disappointment and blame, and condemnation from relatives and neighbors. The news quickly spread online, with various condemnations and curses pouring in. Meanwhile, my effective lawyers finally recovered the house and $3 million in cash. Because of the asset freeze order I filed against Marcus, he couldn't offer any help. In the end, Chloe sold all her luxury goods and borrowed some money to scrape together $2 million. Marcus then borrowed another $1 million through other channels to pay it back. Of course, I kept evidence of this $1 million as his post-divorce debt. Chloe's side was in chaos, and Marcus's side was even more so. Due to our divorce proceedings, his company's funding had been continuously delayed. He was reluctant to divorce because of the family debt, but he couldn't prove I had deliberately transferred assets, so the divorce procedures dragged on. The two, each in their own panic, were no longer a source of happiness for each other. Chloe complained that he didn't care about her, couldn't fulfill his promise to resolve her academic issues, and didn't even show up when Mr. Taylor was hospitalized. This led to her current situation of a ruined future, disgraced reputation, parental blame, and online abuse. And no longer saw liveliness or happiness in her. Instead, she had become a burden. Finally, under the pressure that the company's funding could no longer be delayed, Marcus admitted to the household debt and agreed to my divorce terms, but stipulated that the company shares I owned could only be sold back to him. And just like that, he divorced, burdened with tens of millions in external debt. He thought he had saved the company. But I had already, through my own investment resources, moved on his last round of investment, planning with other shareholders to oust him from the company. After the funding closed, he was out. The day he left the company, I made a point to see him. I watched him walk out of his office, out of the work area, and out of the battlefield he had fought so hard on, holding a cardboard box, looking dejected. My heart wasn't as light as I'd expected. The day the company went public, we rang the bell at Nasdaq. No one remembered Marcus, the founder. Perhaps some did, but he was never mentioned again. He was probably in some unnoticed corner, sadly watching this child he had painstakingly nurtured drift further and further away from him. After everything was settled, I took a vacation and went to Africa, a trip we had always planned but never realized. I saw impoverished but hopeful African children and felt the awe of the great wildlife migration. Standing on the vast, untamed savanna, I finally let go of those 11 years of history. Good or bad, it was all in the past. I heard about Marcus again 2 years later at a tech conference. I heard he had started another venture, but unfortunately, it wasn't going well. His product lacked competitiveness, the money invested went down the drain, and he was deeply in debt. I ran into Marcus again at an investment conference. He was there seeking funding, while I was there as an investor. He was drinking glass after glass with the investors, wearing the suit I had bought him, but it no longer fit. His emaciated frame couldn't fill it out, making him look utterly down and out. At another table, I was waiting for others to come seeking my investment, surrounded by respectful figures. Our eyes met from across the room, like strangers. I saw him clutching his stomach, realizing his stomach issues had flared up again. When he first started his company, he damaged his stomach from drinking. Later, when the company grew, he no longer needed to be pushed to drink heavily, and with my careful care, it had improved. Now, his well-managed stomach was suffering again. After the event dispersed, I watched from my Rolls-Royce as a gaunt, pale, and simply dressed Chloe helped Marcus into a taxi. It seemed they got what they deserved. When I returned from my vacation, people reported their news to me. I heard that Mr. and Mrs. Taylor had retired early and moved away because they had lost face. Chloe couldn't finish her studies but I'd by Marcus's side to help him with his startup. Later, friends in our circle asked me if I wanted to keep making trouble for them. I refused. With the reputation of having misappropriated company funds to spend on his mistress, coupled with the rapidly changing tech industry, Marcus would never have a chance to make a comeback. He and Chloe were destined for a different, impoverished path. It was enough for them to reach this point. A hand reached over, gently gripping mine. "What are you looking at?" a voice asked with a smile. I turned my head, looked at the man in the passenger seat, and squeezed his hand back, our fingers intertwined. "You," I said, my face radiant with happiness. The man's smile brightened. Marcus was right, young people truly were vibrant and exciting. Marcus's side, in an instant, Marcus saw Grace surrounded by people. Dressed in a designer suit, she exuded elegance in every gesture. She effortlessly handled the tycoons around her, who were discussing investment projects worth hundreds of millions. That circle was a level he could no longer enter. In the end, they had become people living in two different worlds. It had been over 2 years since they last met. The last time was when the company went public and rang the bell, and he had merely watched silently from the crowd. Now, seeing her again, he glanced down at his ill-fitting suit, a style from 3 years ago. He gave a bitter smile, pulled his gaze away, with no time for extraneous thoughts, turning quickly to find someone who could invest in his new company. Over 2 years ago, after being kicked out of venture tech on the eve of its IPO, he had started over, establishing Phoenix. Unfortunately, without resources or innovative, competitive products, the current company was struggling. Without new funding, it would be forced to close its doors in less than a month. Investors he wouldn't have given a second glance 3 years ago were now his only hope. He drank glass after glass FO. Are an investment of just a few million. Marcus, if it were your old venture tech, forget a 2 million investment, I'd gladly hand over 10 million just to be involved. But solutions now. Let's just forget it. Mr. Miller, I built venture tech into something great, and I will do the same with Phoenix. An investment now will definitely pay off. Mr. Miller, one of the only 2 people still willing to talk to Marcus, shook his head and walked away before Marcus could finish. Marcus, the investment community isn't optimistic about Phoenix right now. You should probably think of another way out. Another person from the investment community, standing near Marcus, patted his shoulder, offering kind advice. Marcus nodded his thanks. He knew the reality of the situation, but he was still unwilling. The reception was nearing its end, and he would again return empty-handed. He had attended one dinner after another, seeking investment. The stomach issues, which Gracie had helped him manage before, had flared up again, and pain racked his entire body. He pressed his stomach as he walked towards the restroom. Just as he reached the door, he heard conversations coming from inside the restroom. Marcus is truly pitiable now, isn't he? After being kicked out of venture tech, he truly can't make a comeback. Phoenix product isn't good now, and his notorious reputation in the tech and investment circles means no one will invest. He's just reaping what he sowed. Grace is so formidable, and he still dared to have an affair. The fact that he can still show his face in this circle means she showed him mercy. How many successful men don't have bad intentions? But those are usually kept under control by their wives. He, on the other hand, truly overestimates himself. Well, looks like someone has some insights, haha. The restroom conversation gradually veered off topic, but Marcus was already accustomed to such discussions about him. The people talking emerged, saw Marcus's pale face. CE, and knew their conversation had been overheard. 3 years ago, they would have apologized cautiously, but now they simply smiled and walked away. When walked back into the ballroom, it was empty. Pressing his still aching stomach, he went downstairs. Chloe was waiting in the lobby. Seeing step out of the elevator, she rushed over. Did you get any funding? No. Why no funding yet? The company can't hold on, and we're out of money at home. How did Grace set you up and get you kicked out of the company in the first place? It was about to go public, we wouldn't be this poor. Chloe didn't notice Marcus's discomfort, complaining incessantly. The harsh reality of falling from their former heights over the past 2 years had long since shattered her idolizing perception of him. Chloe, my stomach hurts. He remembered when he first started Venture Tech, he would also navigate various drinking events, but Gracie would always accompany him or prepare stomach-soothing medicine or food. Later, after the company stabilized, she even found a skilled traditional Chinese medicine doctor for his treatments and personally cooked medicinal meals. Your stomach issues are an old problem. Just take some painkillers later. Nowadays, Chloe would only suggest painkillers. Her former admiration had turned into perfunctory care. The two got into a taxi. Marcus's car had long since been sold to cover their expenses. As he got in, he saw Grace sitting in a Rolls-Royce. There was a new man beside her, and her eyes shone when she looked at him, just as they had once shone for Marcus. He wasn't sure if it was the jealousy stirring within him from witnessing that scene, the dampness mixed with sweat in the taxi, or the stomach discomfort, but a wave of nausea swept over him. Seeing about to vomit, the taxi driver loudly stated, "Don't throw up in the car. It'll cost you extra." Chloe quickly pulled a plastic bag from her handbag and handed it to Marcus. Marcus looked at the plastic bag, then at Chloe, whose brow was furrowed with irritation. He tried hard to suppress the nausea, turned his head to the window, and gripped the plastic bag so tightly that veins popped out on his hand. The driver in the front seat continued to mutter under his breath, "I thought everyone coming from here was a big boss or a rich person." Rain began to fall outside, drumming loudly against the car windows. Chloe beside him complained incessantly, "It's been 2 years, and the company is deep in debt. I thought you could create another Venture Tech, but it's nothing like that, and now we're so deep in debt. We should have invested that money in something else or bought a house. Now we have nothing. For you, I couldn't finish college, and I've suffered so much with you for nothing. I haven't bought clothes in almost 2 years, and we have to be so careful with every penny for food and daily necessities. I'm only in my 20s. Her quiet complaints and whimpers made the already cramped space even more suffocating. "Wasn't it your own choice, then? You approached me first, remember?" Such complaints were not new. Every previous time, Marcus had silently endured them, but this time, he refused to suffer alone. He flared up, his voice dark, watching Chloe with a mocking and furious gaze that made her shiver. After a long moment, Marcus finally averted his gaze back to the window. How had things come to this? Marcus's clenched right hand forcefully slammed the seat beside him, unable to disperse the gloom in his heart. He and Grace had spent 11 years together. From the first moment in college, the girl who saw him make a fool of himself had captured his heart. Her confidence and generosity drew all his attention, yet deep down, he harbored a subtle insecurity he hadn't even recognized. So, even though he liked her, he waited for her to make the first move, ensuring her complete devotion before his confession came naturally. Grace was exceptional, from a good family. She introduced Marcus, who was from a small town, to many new experiences, taught him a great deal, and exposed him to a more elevated world. She also managed their life together impeccably, allowing him to pursue his ambitions without worry. Venture Tech finally succeeded, but he became arrogant. Chloe appeared at the peak of his success. Her eyes filled with admiration, and her sweet, feminine reliance were things Grace had never offered, satisfying his manly pride for a time. He had never considered divorce, but he couldn't resist Chloe's seemingly innocent, adoring eyes. He thought he could have Grace at home and turn to Chloe when he wanted an easy time, but he forgot that Grace was never one to be taken advantage of. It proved that Grace didn't need Marcus. Without Grace, Marcus was nothing. When he was forced out of Venture Tech, Grace hadn't actually gone for the kill. The money from selling his shares would have been enough for him to live a comfortable, ordinary life. But his unwillingness, coupled with Chloe's repeated hints, fueled by her materialistic lifestyle, led him to start another company. Unfortunately, this venture lacked the novelty and network resources of his previous one. Furthermore, with his reputation for having an affair and misappropriating company funds, and in the already rapidly changing tech industry, he could never get back on his feet. The two ascended the stairs wearily. Opening the door to their home, they found a chaotic mess. Chloe was not adept at managing a household. Marcus had previously made allowances for her youth, occasionally taking time to clean. But today, he felt utterly powerless. He walked past takeout trash piled on the coffee table, ignored the clothes, clean or dirty, strewn across the sofa, and with heavy steps, made his way to the bedroom. He lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Chloe cautiously walked over. Marcus today made her afraid. Does your stomach still hurt? Do you want some painkillers? Did you go pick up the results from your last checkup? The stomach pain could no longer be ignored. His busy schedule had made him forget to pick up the results from his last appointment. I forgot. I'll get them tomorrow. I've been so busy lately, juggling the company and the home. Marcus closed his eyes, no longer listening to Chloe. He replied, I'll go myself. Advanced stomach cancer. Marcus looked at the results in his hand, feeling little surprise, but rather a sense of it being a done deal. The doctor continued speaking, but his thoughts had already drifted. Was this his karma? He sat on a chair in the hospital lobby, watching people come and go, his mind racing between the company's financial strain and where to find money to save his life. His desire to live was incredibly strong. Suddenly, something occurred to him, and he felt grateful for Grace's care in the past. He remembered how he had opposed her buying insurance policies that cost hundreds of thousands each year, but now they had become his lifeline. Now he was too weak to manage the company. Phoenix had to be sold before it completely collapsed. Though it wouldn't cover all their external debts, they had to cut losses immediately. Marcus began to plan, little by little, much more practically this time. Chloe only found out after the company was sold. She had been clinging to the dream of being a wealthy socialite, a dream of returning to her previous materialistic lifestyle, which had sustained her through 2 years of hardship with Marcus. With that dream shattered, she completely lost control. Marcus, you bastard. Didn't you promise me a good life? You sold the company behind my back. What are you trying to do? I've suffered so much with you. Are you even a man? You've ruined me, Marcus. Looking at the wailing, distraught person before him, he felt nothing but regret. I have advanced stomach cancer. Those words stopped Chloe's cries. I've made a plan. The company couldn't be sustained. We had to cut losses. There's still some debt after selling it, but selling this house and my previous insurance payout can cover most of it. As for my illness, it's also covered by insurance. So, if we budget carefully and find regular jobs, we can still live. Sell the house? I don't agree. Find the insurance contracts I gave you before. I need to calculate something. Marcus glanced at Chloe and continued, the house was bought before we got married, so whether it's sold or not is up to me. But the debts are post-marital, so you'll have to listen to me. Otherwise, you'll be burdened with half the debt if you leave. Chloe froze, clearly reeling from the blow. Marcus waited, giving her time to process. Insurance? What insurance? After sitting stunned for a long time, Chloe came to her senses and could only comply. It's the insurance I told you to pay into every year. Grace researched it for a long time. It's the most suitable type for business people like us. Even though it's over 100,000 a year, it's a lifesaver now. Looking at Chloe's lost and empty gaze, a bad feeling arose in him. Don't tell me you didn't pay into it. Chloe lowered her head, her voice trembling with a sob. I don't understand these things. I just thought over 100,000 a year was too expensive. I really didn't know. At that moment, Marcus's desperate anger vanished, and he no longer had the energy to ask where the money had gone. Marcus desperately wished this was all a dream, that he could wake up and return to 3 years ago. He would definitely stay far away from Chloe and protect his home with Grace. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as a regret pill in this world. Every step must be accounted for. Without expensive medical treatment, Marcus didn't last long, passing away a year later. Before he died, Chloe reluctantly took care of him, cleaning up his vomit, sleepless day and night. In her 20s, she no longer looked like she was in the bloom of her youth. It wasn't because of deep affection, but because she feared that if she didn't care for Marcus, she would be burdened with half the debt herself. Thankfully, Marcus had still made arrangements for Chloe. He sold the house and his hidden investments, repaying most of the debts, leaving Chloe with very little. At night, when no one was around, Chloe sat on the cramped bed in her rental apartment. One moment she imagined her bright future, a dazzling life as a high-earning professional. The next, she dreamt of becoming a wealthy socialite, deeply in love with Marcus. But the reality was, she had no home to return to, no one to rely on, and her daily gig work was inconsistent. Even the people doing odd jobs with her avoided her. Though still in the prime of her youth, she was jittery, sometimes resentful, sometimes lost and empty.